Do you ever struggle with trusting yourself? Do you notice that you tend to give your power away around certain people? If any of this is true for you, in this video, I'm going to share with you why that happens and what you can do about it. When I was in my 20s, I was a researcher and I worked at a research lab at UC Berkeley. And I remember very clearly that whenever I ran into a problem, when an experiment failed, for instance, I would immediately run to my mentor and ask him for guidance, ask him to think for me, basically, because I was so afraid of the consequences of taking on the responsibility and actually owning up for things not going out the way that I envisioned. I had this fixed attachment to a specific outcome, to having my graduate school projects turn out a certain way, to get published in certain journals. And this kept me from really trusting myself. Really, there's more to it than that, but this was an aspect of why I wasn't trusting myself. If I could rely on my mentor for input and for opinions, then, well, the responsibility wasn't mine if things didn't work out. We were in this together. The responsibilities were shared. I'm listening to what he's saying, so I can discharge my pent-up anger or aggression or resentment on things not going out because of his perspective. So really, it was a sense of a desire to not take on ownership, in part, that was behind this. But there was more to it than that. The other component, the other reason why it was so difficult for me to trust myself was because I was the one person on the planet that understood clearly and knew clearly how many times I did not keep my own word to myself and to others. I knew how much I lied. I knew how capable of deception I was. I knew how unwilling I was to keep my commitments, to keep my intentions. This prevented me from trusting myself in the face of uncertainty, from trusting myself when I suddenly encountered failure and had no idea where to go with a project. And the last reason why I struggled with trusting myself, and why this may be also true for you, is that when it came down to it, I was willing to sacrifice and to abandon parts of myself in order to belong to others. The sense of self-abandonment, the sense of self-betrayal, a willingness to betray my own truth, a willingness to betray what I genuinely think is true, my own personal truth, for the sake of the group, for the sake of pleasing someone else, was at the heart of my inability to trust myself, because I knew how often and how willing I was to abandon myself almost at the drop of a hat if I actually cared about what someone thought of me, if I cared about looking good, quote unquote good, my own perceptions of what that was for someone else. So those were the three main reasons why I struggled to trust myself, and why you might struggle to trust yourself also. These are things that I've moved through, and I share them with you to help you move through them as well. One thing you can do right now to begin to cultivate more self-trust is to keep your word. Stop lying. Stop being a deceptive little bitch. Keep your word. You need to connect with your balls. Keep your word and follow through on your commitments, even if they're ultimately unpleasant, uncomfortable. If you make a commitment, if you speak words out into the universe, be one with them. Keep your words, and I promise your ability to trust yourself will begin to grow. Peace.